This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon everyone, Shalom Aleichem. So yesterday I forgot to review the previous chapter, chapter 8, Parak Ches, which was the parak about Netzach, Hoid, and Yesod. So we have Rav Nosson Waldler's review here of Parak Ches. So how does a person train themselves in the midos of Netzach, Hoid, and Yesod? And the Devorah said some of the tikkunim are joint and some of them are specific. So the Devorah began by saying, by supporting and assisting Lamdei Torah financially and with actions, by supplying them with their needs, so you're being mechazik them, and you are supporting the Lamdei Torah, and by doing so, you are strengthening Netzach and Hoid. Netzach and Hoid are called Tamchin Do'iraisa. That is the terminology of the Yizayar. Tamchin Do'iraisa. And one has to be careful not to disparage their teaching and to provide them with Svarim and a place to learn. This is all a way of being mechazik Lamdei Torah. Everybody according to their level, the Devorah says, they are called the supporting Torah is connected to these two spheros, because these two spheros, Netzach and Hoid, are called the Machzikim Ba and the Soimcheha. Furthermore, the Devorah says that one who learns Torah should try to learn from many Rabbeim, because the Torah will not be complete if somebody learns only from one person. Then one becomes a resting place. And the Merkava for Netzach and Hoid are called the Limudei Hashem. And the teacher is called Tiferes. So Tiferes influences Netzach and Hoid. And then the Devorah says when one learns Chumash, that is connected to the right side, which is Netzach, which is Midas Harachamim. When one learns Mishnah, that is connected to the left side, Midas HaHoid. And Gemara incorporates both of them. Now how does one train themselves in the midah of Yesod? So the Devorah says one should be careful to refrain from improper thoughts that could lead to Avera, to Tumas Keri, and vulgar speech is a sin which could lead to further sin. And we quoted from the Mesilas Yesharim that improper speech is Gilui Arayos of the Peh. And even proper speech that insinuates improper thoughts, that also has to be avoided. Yesod is the covenant of the rainbow, the bris of the keshes. And just like the keshes arches upward and shoots down, focused on Malchus, so too one has to use their Aver only for its intended function. Okay, so that's the brief review of Parak Ches. And yesterday we began Parak Tes, which is Malchus. And we learned from the Tikkunei Zayar that Malchus is Lesle Migarmei Klum. Malchus is represented by the moon. And Malchus basically is the Kli of all the Spheros. All the Shefa of all the Spheros are Neskabel in Malchus. David HaMelech, who is the great Anav, is the Sphera of Malchus. And the way one acquires Malchus is to feel and to recognize, even if one is wealthy and popular, that he has nothing, that he is forsaken, alone, and bereft of any entities, of any resources. And especially during Tefillah. And the Devorah says, feeling this way during Tefillah is a skula nefla. For a person to feel completely empty during Tefillah, kedalim ucherashim dafakna dulasecha. But we know otherwise, the feeling arrogant is antithetical to Tefillah. And as David HaMelech himself uttered the words, Ki yachid va'ani ani, I am alone and poor. Because even though a person may have family and friends, but family and friends can only go so far. But once a person, so to speak, gets to the grave and is preparing for the entrance to the next world, and for the exam and the bechina of the next world, there's nothing anybody could do to help you. It doesn't matter how large your family is, it doesn't matter how extensive your holdings are, you're all by yourself. Okay, and now we come to a second aspect of Malchus. And this is a practice that is really rarely heard about Bizman Hazeh, but we'll see it may have its intended function as well. Oid Shniya Parsha b'Sefer Zohar. The Zohar explains another aspect of the Midah of Malchus, V'hi chashuva ma'od. It is very valuable. Yigla mimakam lamakam l'shem shemayim. You should exile yourself from place to place for the sake of heaven. Like the Vilna Gaon did. The Vilna Gaon left his hometown, and he exiled himself to a strange place, and he basically wandered like a pauper. What's the purpose of doing this? Why should you, let's say somebody lives in a nice house in, I don't know where, in Flatbush, in Borough Park, in Williamsburg, in Muncie, in the 5 towns, and now what? You should disguise yourself as a beggar and wander. And the Torah Devorah says, now it's interesting, because many Musar Sfarim talk about the value of what's we call Prava Galus. The Archas Tzadikim says that when a person is in Galus, it helps a person build bitachon. And thereby, when a person has absolute faith in Hashem, then he can acquire true simcha. True simcha can only be acquired if somebody has complete faith in Hashem. Reb Tzadok HaKohen and the Tzidkas HaTzadik Ois Pei says that there's another benefit of Prav and Galus, and that is helps a person control anger. Why does a person get angry? Anger helps a person feel in control. Many people don't like the feeling of not being in control. So the way to compensate for that, when things are not going one's way, so you feel like you're losing control, so getting angry is a way of sort of in your imagination, you feel like you're gaining control. So going into exile, where you're always in a state of the unknown, where am I going to eat, where am I going to sleep, where am I going to stay, that trains a person to overcome anger. But the Torah Devorah has a third benefit of going into Galus, and the Torah Devorah's benefit of going into Galus is you're emulating HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Shechina who is in Galus. And by doing so, you become the chariot which the Shechina rests upon. By doing so, you become the chariot for the Shechina. The Yadama Atzmai. You should say to yourself, compare yourself. He says, that my Galus is nothing like God's Galus. When God goes into Galus, He doesn't bring His vessels with Him. He doesn't bring His pillow and His teddy bear, kiviyachal, or His toothbrush. God is in Galus without any of His appurtenances. It's just the Rebbeinu Shalom. Obviously, we're saying it as a mashal, but the Torah Devorah says a person should say, when I go into Galus, I come with 10 suitcases. I have my shluf kappel, and I have my teddy bear, and I have my toothbrush, and I have my mints that I have before I go to sleep, and I have my fuzzy slippers, and I have everything I need. And I have my galoshes and an umbrella in case it rains, and a snowsuit in case it snows, and suntan lotion in case it's 90 degrees. People, when they travel, they take every possible item that they might need or they'll never need. So my galus, a person should say, is nothing like the Rebbeinu Shalom's galus. Ma yaseh kavod gavaya shegolsa shechina. What about the honor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? That the Shechina is in Galus, v'cheileha einam ima, and her kelim are not with her. Shechasru b'sibas haGalus, she's missing them. Her implements are missing. So when you go into Galus, you should go with as least amount of kelim that you would need. Kedachsiv klei goyla asilach, make for yourself appurtenances of exile. V'yachnia levavai ba'goyla, you should humble your heart in exile. V'yiskasher b'Torah, and attach yourself to Torah. V'az Shechina imai, then the Shechina will be with you. V'yasa la'atzmai gerushin, you should make for yourself a banishing, like an expulsion. V'yisgarish mibeis menuchasei tamid, even though you could sit in the comfort of your house, don't. Go out into some empty place, find a shul somewhere, where it's not that comfortable, and spend some time there. Kederach shahayim is garshim Reb Shimon v'chaverav, like Reb Shimon and his friends went into exile. V'oiskem v'Torah. Umagam michatis raglav mimakam lamakam b'lisus v'rechav, and all the more so if a person could drag his feet from place to place without a horse or chariot. Alav nemar. About such a person it says, Sivroi al Hashem elokav. His hope is to the Lord. But it could also be explained, Upershu by Lashon Shever, broken, Shumeshaber Gufa, he breaks his body, L'chvoid Gavoya, for the honor of the one on high. Now, even though this seems maybe a little archaic, who goes into Galus? Maybe the Gra, maybe the Baal Shem, but who goes into Galus? But there are times in life, Rabbi say, where a person does have to leave their house. Let's say, sometimes a person has to travel for business, or for family obligations. Sometimes you might have to stay by your wife's relatives. So, instead of being grouchy and grumpy about it, think, the Rebbeinu Shem is sending me in Golos. And, or you might have to go to some cousin who tells you bad jokes and stale Divrei Torah that don't make any sense. And you think to yourself, no, I'm going to pass this Nisayon. I am going into Golos. You may have planned the trip. You're going on a business trip. You may have planned the trip. And I'm reading now from Rabbi Yisrael Reisman's book, Pathways of the Prophets. But if once you're going, you don't know why the Rebbeinu Shalom arranged this journey for you. Maybe this is a way for you to spend time in Golos and to be a chariot for the Shekhinah and to work on anger and to work on bitachon. Or maybe you might have to go to the DMV and wait on a long line. So instead of thinking, why would the Rebbeinu Shalom send my soul down to this lowly world, traveling thousands of miles, just to wait online in a Department of Motor Vehicle office where the clerk, after waiting online for 3 hours, won't even know how to help me? Why do I have to endure this? Think this.
That's not.
So if you're on the Madrega to think that this is Gehenna, that's also a Madrega. But you could think that this is your Golos. Or sometimes you're walking to shul and it's a snowy day and you didn't realize some of the snow got into your shoes. So instead of feeling grouchy and grumpy about it, think, I'm on a small little Golos right now. It should be mechaper for my avonos. And I am emulating the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is in Golos without its kalim. So for a few moments, this is the avodah of, even if a person doesn't put themselves in a self-imposed Golos like the Gra and the Baal Shem, but one could use, so to speak, some inconvenience or uncomfortable situation in life and treat it and visualize and imagine it as one's Golos, and thereby one becomes a Merkava to the Shekhinah. Okay, Mav Rabbi Sai, thank you everyone for joining tonight.
Rabbi, I have one comment.
Yes.
I don't suggest that if you go to your in-laws, you tell them you feel like you're in Galus.
No, absolutely not. You should definitely not tell them that.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.